Good morning. Today is October 20th, Thursday, 2022. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to be talking about real estate stats for San Mateo County, California. Some of the largest employers here, maybe you've heard of them: Facebook, now called Meta, Genentech, biotech company, Gilead, another biotech company. Some other big companies in San Mateo County would be YouTube, headquarters is there, Visa, as well as Oracle. So those are some of the biggest employers in San Mateo County. I'm going to briefly show a map of San Mateo County. So right here, dotted in red here, right? So sometimes referred to as the peninsula. San Francisco is the county to the north, and Santa Clara County is the next county down south, usually called the South Bay. Right, so let's now look at the stats. So here, we're going to be focused here on San Mateo today, San Mateo County. So let's jump right into the stats. So as a brief overview, the stats that we're going to be talking about today are the number of homes for sale, the number of homes pending, which is the ones where the sellers accepted an offer, so they're basically sold, the days on market, months of inventory, as well as the median prices, right? And we'll break this down into two categories. First is single family homes, and second is condos and townhouses, right? So the first set we'll be looking at are single family homes. So let's look at the number of homes for sale, so actives, right? I'm going to go back to 2018, right, pre-COVID, to look at the data, right? So you can see it's quite cyclical, right? So it starts low, goes up, right, in the summer, then goes back down in the winter, then back up, then down, then back up, and down, and then you see this huge dip down here, right? And we'll talk about that, right, later on as we dive deep into the actual numbers, right? So let's look at the numbers, right? So it got down to 257 homes for sale, right, at the beginning of this year. And so that is one of the reasons that the prices went up so much, right? And when we get to the prices, we'll talk about that. But let's just look at the inventory for the last 3 months, okay? So going back to 2018. So I'm going to focus on these numbers here. So as we can see, the trend for 2022, right, inventory has creeped up, right? We started at 585 in August, 652 in September, and then so far in October, 647 homes for sale, right? And if we could just go back to last year, it is definitely higher than that. If we go back further, then we can see we're actually low on inventory, right, compared to 2018 and 2019, right? So that's number of homes available for sale. So now we're going to look at number of homes being sold, right? So that'll be the pending listings, right? So let's look at that. Okay, let's look at the chart first. So we can see here, right, similar thing, right? It's cyclical. It goes up, goes down. It goes up generally in the spring and summer, then goes down in the winter time, right? So we can see that all the way through. Now, what's this down here, right? Most recently, right? So we can look here. It has really dropped off, right? The number of pendings, right? So if we look here, so as we talked about with the number of homes available for sale, it's a little bit higher than last year. But a key difference this year in 2022 is the number of homes that are actually selling, right? So for August, September, we're in the 300s, but now in October, we've only had 168 so far go pending, right? Which means the seller has accepted an offer. So essentially in contract towards closing, right? And so that's been pretty consistent, right, over the past few years, but we're seeing a little bit of a decline here, right, in 2022. Right, so now where does that show up in the stats? Well, how long it takes to sell a house, right? So that's the days to sell, right? Days on market. So looking at the chart here, right? So it was very high, right? In the winter time in 2019 and 2020, it's been pretty stable, right? Which is selling super fast, right? So like single digit number of days, right? And now we've creeped back up a little bit, right? So now we can see here, looking at the last 3 months, going back to 2018, it has increased, right, this year compared to the last few years, but not significantly if we go all the way back to 2018, right? So 15 days, 17 and 14. Well, let's go all the way back to pre-COVID. It was 13, 14, and 14. So to me, an extra day or 2 days to sell the home is not a significant difference, right? So if we look here in January 2019, 29 days, well, that's a significant increase in days on market. So a similar way to look at this is months of inventory, how many homes we have available for sale, right? So we can see here, we've had a quite low inventory, right? So like less than 2 months of inventory, right? And now we're kind of creeping up, right? Right now, right? This is huge increase right here. I'll remind everyone once again, we're talking about San Mateo County, right? So here we're at, for the month of October so far, we're at 3.6 months of inventory, right? Which is definitely higher than last year, right? 1 month of inventory, right? And going all the way back, we're at like 2018, we're about 1.6 to 2.3 to 1.6, right? Months of inventory, right? And finally, last stat we'll look at is the median sales price, right? So you can see here, there has been quite an increase up, right? So the scaling of the y-axis here doesn't really show, but when we look at the actual dollar amounts, you can see how much it's increased, right? So let's look back here. Let's look back here, right, to 2018. So the median sales price for San Mateo County in 2018 was 1.45 million, so about 1.5, right? And this year is 1.8 to 1.7, right? And at the beginning of this year, at the peak, right, we were at 2.25, right? So even as prices have come down, right, from the peak of early this year, we had a tremendous increase, right? If we go all the way back 5 years to 2018. Right. And a key thing I like to also mention is if you look at the volatility of this, comparing this to the stock market, right, this is significantly less volatile, right? There's definitely changes in the prices, and generally they've trended upwards on the houses, but the stock market, as we can see, right, for the last few years has been quite volatile, making significant changes, right, all the time. So yeah, this is a good chart I like to look at, and I like to look all the way back, right, and then look at all the trends as well. Okay, so now let's change the property type. We've been looking at single family homes. Now let's jump into condos and townhouses, okay? The first thing we'll look at is number for sale. We'll look at, so we can see here, right, so we're still below the peak, right? So the peak was the beginning of a COVID here. That was the peak number of condos and townhouses for sale, right? So we can see here, let's look at the actual numbers, the over 400. It's a 405. Okay, so looking here for the last 3 months, August, September, and October, we can see we are similar to last year, right? And a little bit higher than 2018, but definitely lower than 2020, right? With the number of condos and townhouses for sale. All right, so now let's look at the number that have been sold. So you can see here, it's hovered between 100 and 150, and now we've really dropped off, right? So number sold here You can see it's hovered, around 100 to 150. And so far this month in October, we've only sold 54, right? So that's a definite downward trend on the number of condos being sold, right? In San Mateo County. Okay, so let's see if that shows up yet on the days on market. Yep, and we can definitely see that, right? So it always trends upwards during the winter time, we can see here, right? And we're following that same trend. Last year, it didn't get up so high, right? It was only up to about 15, 16 days here, but now we're back up to what it's been, right? Looking back in the past few years, right? So definitely see, right? It's taking longer to sell, right? So 14, 25, 27 days so far for October. Right? And we look back to 2021, it was only 11 days, 12 days, and 15 days. So it's taking a little bit longer, right, to sell condos and townhouses in San Mateo County. Now let's look at how much months of inventory we have. Okay, right, so now you can see it's definitely increased, right, in the last few months here. Okay, it's good to see the trends. It stayed around between 2 and 3 months of inventory. Right, so 4.2 months of inventory, right, so far this month, compared to 2.6 and 1.9, right? So there's definitely been a shift in the market, especially on the condos and townhouses, right? And now, let's look at this, the median sales price. Relatively flat. All right, so let's look at the actual numbers. So here we go. So between 800, low 800s, and we're still about there, right? So it's kind of an interesting thing to look at. There has not been significant appreciation, right? Especially if you compare it to single families in San Mateo County, right? So at the peak, right, we're at almost at 1.1, right? And now we're in the 900s for the median sales price in San Mateo County. All right, so that wraps up our stats for today, October 20th, 2022. We looked at San Mateo County, single families, as well as condos and townhouses, and we can see there's quite a difference, right, between the two in terms of the trends. And I hope that helped. And until next time, hope you have a nice day. Thank you.